Hey people, and welcome to lesson 2 of the popular BA series. Today we'll be talking about getting started as a business analyst. Come on guys. So for me, the first thing you need to do is ask yourself the question, what type of business analyst do I actually want to become? So my advice to you would be do your research, study your personality, and decide exactly what type of business analyst you need to become. There are three major types of business analysts, and I'll just quickly run through them. The first one is a business process analyst, and that person will focus on the business side of things rather than the IT side. The business system analyst will focus more on the IT side of things, obviously, rather than the business side of things. And then you have a generalist business analyst who is highly skilled and has worked or started off as one of the previous two listed above, and then is able to work within any environment. So for this series, I've decided to be a business process analyst. So say I want to become a business process analyst. What's the next step? My advice is you leverage your domain knowledge for your best chance of success. So if you're lucky enough to be already working in a job, retail, healthcare, public service, whatever it is, I'll advise you to actually leverage the knowledge you've already gained working within that sector, because the increasing need for business analysts in all sectors. And this will give you a head start when you take that opportunity on. The second thing I'll advise you to do is develop your requirements elicitation skills. I know you're thinking, oh my God, yet another concept. But a business analyst is known as that person who gathers requirements efficiently. And that's what requirements elicitation is. Requirements elicitation is just part of the requirements engineering process, and it's just a way of discovering the requirements that are needed by gathering those requirements basically from the different stakeholders. So requirements elicitation and gathering are basically the same thing. So if you're trying to make a cup of tea, for example, the requirements would be the tea bag, the milk, sugar, teacup, and tablespoon. And these requirements will be gathered from the stakeholders, which will include the person making the tea, the shops you're getting the supplies from, and the person actually putting the tea together. And that's what the requirements really are. So just think of requirements as whatever you need, basically, to help implement change or solution or whatever it is. The components that make that thing up is what a requirement is. I also advise you just to learn how to gather requirements. So before those requirements can be analyzed and modeled, they must be gathered, like we mentioned earlier. And there are ways of gathering this requirements. These requirements can be gathered from one-on-one meetings, interviews, questionnaires, user observations, workshops, brainstorming exercises, and obviously desk research or just prototyping. So that's a very, very interesting skill to get as well. So you also practice requirement analysis techniques. So like what I'm trying to just drop on the board as well is a process map. So develop your ability to represent requirements using visual aids like process maps. So usually a process map will have a start, will have a task, will have a decision box, which is what I have there as a stop sign. And that's the no, for example. So if you have to make a decision there and the option is no, that's what was going to happen. And that's how it ends. If the decision leads you to making, if it's a yes decision, it carries on. And then there's another task. And then that leads you to yet another task. And then finally, that leads you to the end of that process. So that helps you really when you're eliciting information. The visual aid is a good way to be able to ensure that everyone is on the same page and to reduce the amount of text, because nobody reads text after a particular number. There are other visual aids which are also up on the board, as you can see: mind mapping, use cases, entity relation diagrams, and it's all to just ensure that we all have a shared understanding, or all the stakeholders do. Improve your communication skills as well if you're trying to become any type of business analyst. So if you're home or if you're already within a job, this is for you. As a business analyst, you always have to communicate with people, with stakeholders, and you have to do that verbally, via written communication. And you need to do this to be able to represent ideas and communicate visually. So your ability to think critically and problem solve, communication is a good way to help you achieve that. Another advice I have for you as you're trying to become a business analyst is to learn to ask the dumb questions. What's the dumb question you say? Yeah, I'll tell you a bit more. So within your current organization, or if you're in school, I'm sure you heard this many times. There's nothing like a dumb question. So if you don't know something, just ask. So you don't know how this bottle came together, but you're pretending within a meeting that you obviously understand it because you think it's a dumb thing to ask. Ask the question, because if you get a job as a business analyst in a different sector, you're not expected to know anything. So you need to ask the questions at the start so that you don't make any mistakes when you're modeling and when you're gathering the requirements. So ask questions from developers, from infrastructure teams, from any stakeholders to ensure that there is nothing left out during your requirements gathering and analysis phase. Perhaps the final thing I'll say as well is while you're doing this, don't forget you need to update your CV. As you apply for jobs, as you read job descriptions, don't forget you're understanding more what it takes to become a business analyst. You understanding the skills required, the job descriptions, infuse that into your CV, update your CV, and ensure that you're applying for jobs even while you're learning to become a business analyst and leveraging on the domain expertise that you actually have within your current field, or even if you're just a student or you're just at home looking for a career change. Keep updating your CV as you learn because you never know when the opportunity will come about. Don't forget, guys, subscribe down below. Catch you in 2 weeks. Adios.